Hello, and we are now live. Thank you so much to all our friends from all over the world, 35 countries, 200,000 educators, all part of the Acad Asia educator community. Wherever you are now in the world, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good day to all of you. It's been a while. I know we were uh, kind of had a short break in terms of having our regular events. We took the hiatus or the past 3 weeks to kind of just better prepare our lineup, and we're very excited to showcase now our new set of events, and we'll be making some quick announcements of how those events will be going on moving forward. Nevertheless, I'd like to say to hello to our friends, as of course from our Southeast Asian neighbors and our own home ground here in the Philippines. Hello, everybody. Ilocos Sur, Batangas. We have Taguig and Patero City, as well as we have a couple of other friends from Indonesia. I noticed. Okay, I wonder what part of Indonesia you guys are. Is this in Jogja or Jakarta or Surabaya? And of course, we also have our friends from Bukidnon, Region 10. We have some friends from Tangub City, Region 10, Philippines, and elsewhere. So uh, I'd like to introduce myself. If you don't know me yet by now, I'm Roy Platon. I am one of the co-founders of Acad Asia. We are a mission-driven edtech business based out of Singapore, but I'm here based in Manila, and we are here to empower educators everywhere. And we are doing this all for you, our beloved educators, administrators, school owners, because especially now we have to continue that mindset of lifelong learning and upskilling and improving the way we do education. If there's anything that we've learned in the past 2.5 years, is that there's still a lot of things that can be done, especially when we embrace technology and we use these to further enhance our teaching practice. Okay, so good evening, hello from San Mateo, from Parañaque, from Pampanga, and all our other friends. Okay, and of course, all our friends on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, thank you for joining us this evening. So, our topic today is really quite interesting. It's a little bit different from our usual upskilling topics. If you recall, the last time we were talking about appreciative inquiry, we are talking about some pedagogy approaches such as Gagne's 9 events. And even before that, if you've been with us since the beginning, we talk about the 21st century education, the 4 C's: critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration, right? So but today we do a little bit more of a tech perspective in terms of what kind of tools and services that are actually available nowadays that can further enhance um, uh, the value of the trainings and the education that we're able to earn, and how we can actually translate this to the digital world. Okay, so when we talk about digital credentials in particular, and especially for your students and for your learners, even us as teachers and as educators, if you would notice, if any of you have already completed some of our training courses on Acad Asia, you would have gotten a digital certificate in your email. All right. So, did you know that even your students can actually get a digital version of their certificate or diploma, completion of any requirements with your institutions, also in a digital form, so that they can actually show that they have actually completed this to any employer, any party that is inquiring about the validity of these credentials, right? So before we were solely relying on, let's say, a transcript of record, and you'd have to call up the school and find out if they've actually had a valid transcript and they really graduated from this institution. Or let's say you went to a training program and they had to call the organizer to make sure that they really graduated or completed that training. We can do away with all of that, because with digital credentials on the blockchain, using blockchain technology, we can actually improve the speed of delivery and verification of these achievements and these skills that you've earned using digital credentials. So this webinar and this fireside chat, again, as we have always been doing in the past sessions, we've started a little bit later in the day today, obviously because we heard from your feedback, we listened to you, and you told us that you would prefer to have it probably after office hours. after your days at school, so that when you get home, perhaps after you've had your dinner, or perhaps you're having your merienda or your snack break now and having some nice coffee or your favorite drink, sit back and relax, and we can probably share our thoughts about digital credentials and how this can actually improve verifying what kind of credentials and achievements and skills our learners and we also have, and we can share that to whoever employers and other communities. So, also as another note, I'll also showcase a little bit of how you can earn your digital certificates from this program. I already saw some comments at the start that you want to do this, so I'll show you this a little bit later. Okay, so without further ado, with our topic about digital credentials and how to help your students showcase their skills to prospective employers, eliminate bias, identify skills, and hire efficiently, I am proud to introduce our panelists for today. I'd like to start first with our friend. He is based in India. He is the Senior Director for Recruitment at his company, Synechron, and has over 20 years of experience specializing in the entire spectrum of talent acquisition. Okay, he has extensive HR experience, recruiting financial technology domain professionals. He has insight to global talent acquisition, front to back end planning and delivery, internal brand building, system and process improvement, recruitment operations, vendor partners, and global management teams across several continents, including India, UK, and Europe, Middle East, APAC, and Hong Kong geographies, supporting onshore and offshore modeling and right shoring for various industries, including investment banks and capital markets, mortgage and insurance, IT software services, and for manufacturing and digital media as well. Okay, so our panelist today has a lot of experience in terms of the corporate recruitment side, and he can share a lot of insights about why digital credentials are important. So, without further ado, I'd like to call on the stage today, Mr. Sarosh Raghavan. Hello, Sarosh. Welcome.
Hi, Roy. Thanks for having me on the panel. Hi, all. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. Thanks a lot, Sarosh. And then now I'll introduce our next speaker today. So he's based out of Singapore, and he leads the Amazon Web Services EdTech Startups Business Development Team in Southeast in Asia Pacific. Before joining AWS, he himself was a serial entrepreneur. So I'm sure he has a lot of experience when he was hiring teams for his own companies. And he experimented with various forms of technology for education and the public good. He actually started his career teaching chemistry in Singapore and was involved in education policy at the Ministry of Education. And I'm proud to introduce our other panelist for this evening. He is the EdTech Startups lead at AWS, Mr. Ivan Gunn. Ivan, welcome.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Wherever you are, good to have everyone here with us today. And thank you, Roy, for inviting us.
Thanks so much, Ivan. We have a very interesting topic today, and I think it's very refreshing for our educator community now to hear from both of you, because typically most of the speakers that we have are usually from academe. But I think your industry experience will be very valuable in our discussion this afternoon, today. Okay, so let's get right to it. Everybody have your coffees and drinks ready, and imagine we're beside a nice bonfire on the beach, and we're going to be chatting about digital credentials. Okay, so I'm going to start things off because we'll have a bunch of questions towards the end. Don't forget, dear audience, we'll be flashing some links to our Mentimeter today. So if you have any questions to our panelists or about the topic in general, please feel free to type those in. And then towards the end of the session, we'll have those questions come in. We'll answer them as much as possible while we have time. And of course, I'll show you how you can earn your digital certificates for attending and participating in the session today. So, first of all, digital credentials, Sarosh and Ivan, we've heard about these this idea already from quite some time before. Is this something new? Is this something that's very revolutionary, or is this something that has been evolving as companies have been seeking to upskill and get credentials? Maybe you can share a little bit of how you think or how you've experienced digital credentials working, and is this a new idea in terms of having digitized credentials? Anyone can start. Sharosh or Ivan, feel free.
Maybe I'll get Sharosh to start first from the industry side of things. You know, you hire and whatnot. I think that will set things up nice.
Great. So thanks for that, you. So as you asked, Roy, I think so. This is a revolution predominantly after the post-COVID. I've been into the industry for 20 years. I've seen the industry where we used to give resumes on a paper and a pen. I think so that has moved very fast post-COVID. The reason behind post-COVID is everything became a digital boom. In fact, every organization started recruiting every candidate or every student that we want to hire in our organization through virtual sessions that we are currently doing on other channels like MS Teams. So digital credentials has been very important post COVID is what I feel, and it's a revolution which is going to continue now. Ahead. Nobody predicted COVID, but this is how it is. We are into it, and we are out of it now. But I think digital credentials have always been important post COVID for each and every individual, as you said, to secure a job or identify his skills very importantly, and it is much more a secure way. It is the same way like we have our certificates, the physical way. The more recommended industry trend is more to go digital, make it digital, so it gives you more opportunities in the market of the industry where the employers can look at it, and their perspective changes completely because the verification is very fast in digital credentials. Anything that you have starts from your training, your degree, or your diploma, anything. But that has changed post COVID, is what I would like to add. And it is a revolution which is going to be there for long now.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sharos. Interesting. You're saying that it's really a revolution. It's really, especially since we have just emerged from being locked down in our offices or in our homes, and this has really caused an adoption of these digital technologies. Ivan, do you share this sentiment? Is the digitalization of credentials, is this something new and revolutionary, you think?
It is in terms of the adoption, but I think more importantly, it is also because of the evolution in education, right? As teachers and as schools started to realize that, beyond just issuing a certificate at the end of the school year to say what the student has learned for the whole year, what has happened is then you want to be able to break it up into smaller pieces and to show what the student or the participant has learned in terms of skills, in terms of activities participated, or even achievements in smaller blocks. Now, that really makes it a lot more logistically challenging to issue physical certificates for every single thing like this, right? Whereas for a digital certificate, it can easily be distributed, authenticated, updated. So I think beyond the COVID trend, it's because education has evolved, right? We want to really showcase what the students have learned, what they can do, what they have done, what their experiences are, and digital certificates, as well as like general digital credentials, allow for a much more robust way of sharing that with prospective employers or anyone that you want to share that with. So that's my view on it. It's really coming along with education and what we are thinking about from an educator's perspective.
That's a great insight, Ivan. I really appreciate you mentioning that it has evolved from, I guess, not just the time that we had to spend away during the pandemic, but rather than having credentials at the end of every semester or per year, you're saying that the frequency of each issuing these credentials has actually increased, and because you have more frequent credentials being earned, the digital way is actually the more efficient way of presenting and validating these skills or these achievements that these trainees or learners have achieved. Is that right?
Yes, definitely, that's right. And digitalization allows for more information and more rich decisions to be made because now things are held on a digital certificate. You can do analysis, right? For example, one of the things that schools are thinking about doing is to be able to track who employs their students. And this can only be done by a digital certificate, right? If you have a physical certificate that you issue to a student, you really don't know where that student has gone, right? Whereas now, with a digital certificate, there are many ways that you can actually do tracking just to get a sense of where your students are going, whether they're successful, right? And that would help in curriculum as well as staff development as well.
Yeah, you touch on some very interesting points. I think the trackability and monitoring is important, and being to get some sort of sense of where these graduates or skills are actually leading to being employed at what companies or what industries. Then that data is actually very useful, and you would not have been able to see that if it was just on a physical certificate. It's very hard to track it. If it's digital, it's much easier to view. Basically, a data map or a progress map of where all your graduates are going. Before I ask Sharosh to comment, I just want to say also hello to our friends in Indonesia. Nikaisus S says, and Rick, it's actually Indonesian Independence Day today. So happy Independence Day to our friends in Indonesia. I hope all of you are doing well over there in your part of the world. Yeah, so Sharosh, it's interesting. Ivan was mentioning about being able to track where your employer, where your hires had actually graduated from. I mean, can you just describe a little bit on the scenario of how was it like before versus then you started using digital certificates? I think that would be an interesting a story to tell. How was it before versus now?
Exactly. That's a very good question. In fact, I can put more light because I've seen both the worlds. So earlier, any verification that we need to do as an employer, the timeline was from 7 to 8 or 9 days. The TAT was predominantly 2 weeks. But after post-COVID, if you have a digital certificate, it is instant, and it is secured. So that is the change. The timeline has changed to verify a degree. And when we talk about digital credentials, it's not only the academics, as Evan said, it's everything that you have done, what you have achieved. And in the COVID world, what we have done is everybody has done some trainings every quarter. So there are a lot of channels, or there are a lot of trainings which have gone from a one-on-one to a virtual platform like Udemy's of the world. And LinkedIn as a platform has always allowed to add your credentials into that. So that has allowed the employers to verify it faster. In fact, that has been a big revolution in our verification process of any employment that we get or any hire that we do, which gives us instant verification what their skills are, what skills they are getting, and the verification becomes faster. So the hiring process has changed from 2 weeks to probably a 1 week process now, which is positive for us as well as the employer or the employee who's looking for a job in the market. So that has changed completely.
Yeah, so the time savings is really a huge benefit of digital credentials. So I guess from the employer side, you said the hiring cycle is much shorter because you're able
Exactly.
to verify. It saves you at least a week's worth of time just to find out if they actually have the credentials and verifying that they actually earn those skills.
Right.
Um, how about on the institution side? I mean, I can imagine if there's a time saving on the employer side, in the institution side, there should be some time savings as well. I've heard some experiences like some of our institutions that have actually used digital certs is they save on the usual paper filing, going through all those documents. But if they're all digital online in the cloud, they can actually easily pull it from the web and actually generate the cert and send it to a student or a learner that's requesting for, let's say, a new copy of a cert. Is this also doable on the, as Ivan was mentioning about the micro badges or the micro credentials, right? Or you were saying, Ivan, instead of having lengthy time of, let's say, getting skills, or unless of course it's a 4-year diploma, there's now more frequency. Does this micro badging also help micro credentialing trend? Are you seeing this also in industry and in academia, and how are academics actually adapting to this?
I think lifelong learning is something that is up and coming, and a lot more focus on that. You don't stop learning because you have left school, right?
Hmm.
So across the board, I think it's been a very big trend in terms of continual education, in terms of making sure that people keep their skills up to speed, and learn new skills, especially in this day and age where your skills get obsolete really quickly. So with that, there is a very clear need to make sure that you are learning new things, but we do need to show that these new skills that you learn, how do you signal it right to an employer? You could either do a 2-year diploma program, a whole year diploma program, or you could do micro credentials, which teach you a skill in a certain aspect. And all these things can easily be recorded on digital credentials, and then very easily verified using, for example, just scanning a QR code or just having a digital certificate that is encrypted. That allows skills trainers to be able to quickly issue certificates beyond your traditional institutions, provide a high quality service, and really democratize the transfer of some of these skills that are especially important from the industry side of things, right? Rather than from the academic side of things. Because there are some things you want to showcase from an industry perspective, especially if, let's say, the candidate has done an internship for about 3 months and learn certain skills on, for example, digital marketing, right? Or SQL coding. But this candidate probably may not have gone to a school to do it. But if this student has shown a certain level of competency, this digital certificate will be very useful to showcase some of these skills.
Right, right. And I think that's very interesting because then instead of having to, let's say, go back, to the institution and ask for some sort of paper validation of this, if they had learned this also online, then they can easily get a digital version of this cert and present it to the employer. So, for example, if I graduated from a bachelor's of science in, let's say, marketing or management in a particular school, but then if the employer, such as Sarosh, let's say they're looking for a specific digital marketing skill, and then I can share this certificate on LinkedIn. And so, okay, I've completed a short course or micro credential in digital marketing, right? I know the basics of, let's say, email marketing, SEO, SEM, and search engine optimization. Then I can actually present that as a skill that I have. And let's say there are even levels, right? I guess, as we mentioned about lifelong learning, you can have, let's say, the introductory basic level, and then there's level 2, level 3. You become a master at that particular skill. I mean, have you seen that kind of trend in terms of the skills you're looking for, Sharosh, in the employees you seek?
Yes, that is the key. That is one of the most important factor when we hire anybody into an organization, and that helps. That gives us, and it's not only academics that we look at. We also look at the behavioral skills that they have achieved. There are a lot of behavioral skills
Behavioral.
that we go through in our curriculum as a student, volunteering somewhere. So these digital badges also gives us a purview to what exactly the individual is. So if I'm a leader, I'll say I've been leader, or if I'm a volunteer, okay, so I like to work with people, or I'm a team member. So these badges, digital badges, as a digital credential, helps us to identify an individual. In fact, I'll give an example, a very critical example. Earlier in our pre-COVID, we used to put our resumes, and our academic credential has to go at the last page. We have seen a transformation where it is coming to the front page, and I would recommend every student or every employee who's looking for a job to get all these digital credentials on their front page, and that will help them to give more understanding to the employer what they bring onto the table as an employee, so that the employers can get attracted towards that and look at that. And as Ivan said, it's a quick way of identifying what skills are coming in, from any individual.
Right. And in terms of, let's say, managing the flow of information, I mean, I can imagine also in the past, if you have, let's say, all these resumes coming in, and then you have, let's say, a photocopy or a physical copy of those, let's say, credentials that they've earned, or let's say, what is the date of when they actually earned this credential? Is this, let's say, very recent? Let's say they got training 6 months ago versus something that they learned 5 years ago, right? Is it easier or harder to verify that on a paper cert versus a digital cert? I mean, that's a very practical scenario there, isn't it?
Exactly.
So in terms of digital certification, so what I'm hearing from both of you is it's actually quite beneficial for the institutions that are hiring. You can actually have a digital, view of, what skills they've earned, how recently they earned it, from which institution. But even from the educator side, it also helps the schools or institutions that not only do they have the nice, of course, you would probably want a nice diploma, like something to put up and frame up in your room or office. I mean, just to share with both of you gentlemen, like in the Philippines, especially, I can share from my experience, especially if you go to a lot of the provinces and rural areas, it's a big deal that you earned your credential from, let's say, passing a board exam for nursing or becoming a doctor or a lawyer, to the point that they would get a tarpaulin banner and they would actually post it outside their house. And I'm sure a lot of you, my Filipino kababayans, my fellow Filipinos there, you can relate to this, okay? Because we're very proud of the skills and credentials that we've earned. And we take pride and we want to share it to our neighbors, right? But in the digital world, you can do the same, right? Because when you earn a micro badge or credential, you can actually share it to your LinkedIn networks, to your social media networks, and what have you, right? So, are there any scenarios where, let's say, Ivan, let's say when you were hiring for your own teams before, or in AWS, or Sarosh at Syncreon, is it helpful that you see, those credentials that they've earned on these social media networks or their connections with similar industry practitioners?
I think for me, at least when I hire in the past, before when I was running my own businesses, it's beyond credentials are important. The digital credentials help us to very quickly identify who are candidates. But beyond credentials, I think a lot of the companies that are hiring do want to make sure that the competency is there, right? Beyond someone just chasing for 10, 20 credentials. Because sometimes you really need deep expertise in, for example, digital marketing, instead of just saying, oh, I've completed a digital marketing course. Because fundamentally, when a company hires you, right, they are hiring you to complete a business function. And that business function requires a certain level of competency, right? So these digital credentials are very important because they have a signaling effect. But beyond that, we also have to be careful in terms of not overemphasizing on digital credentials and making sure that we have a holistic development of the candidates, so that they are able to show that competency and be able to do well in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, it will be easy to think that, whether you see, even in a paper resume, the qualifications of a candidate, you think he looks good or she looks good on paper, but it's something else when you start working with them and actually seeing the job output and the performance. And it's the same with digital credentials. You're absolutely right, Ivan. I mean, we might get a little, conscious of the certs that they've earned, but also what those represent.
Yeah, but
So
I'm
as
just gonna
yeah, go ahead.
say that I think on a digital credential side, it is a lot easier to show, to have extra evidence to show the competency of these students rather than just relying on physical certificates. I think that is something that is a benefit of the digital credential system that allows organizations to really add experiences and evidence to their credentials to be able to showcase all of these multiple aspects of the students in order to be able to show their capabilities.
Yeah, because I think it's challenging. Like if you try to evaluate a student or a learner or a trainee over, let's say, a half a year to a year and a semester and forward, um, their diploma might not encapsulate all the skills that they've learned. And even if, let's say, if you would like to kind of be more expeditious with showcasing those skills that they've earned, then if I had interned, let's say, at the Sharos's company, let's say if I was still a young buck, I'm not that young anymore, but if I had, let's say, done a 3-month thing with Sharos's company, then if Sharosh's company had a capability of issuing a digital badge, and then say, hey, Roy, you did a good job as an intern, you did some really good email campaigns for digital marketing, put this up on your LinkedIn profile or on your, in your social media profile. And yes, I've completed this badge. And this also adds more benefit to the institution because then, I want to earn that badge. I want to be able to say that I really completed that program because it's a reflection of the skills that I have. Probably not just hard skills, as Sarosh was saying, even the behavioral skills, right? Communication, teamwork. I feel like you're going back to Eagle Scouts or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. You're earning badges. I built a fire and I built a tent. So similarly, those skills are important because let's say if I'm hiring, I want to be able to find someone who's ready, a team player who understands, let's say, the industry that I'm in and already, let's say, knows how to market using digital tools. So those badges is probably like something I'd like to look for. Um, is this something that you're also seeing, Sharosh, in your own hiring practices?
Yeah. In fact, there are a few people who shy away of doing digital credentials, and we recommend them to get that done. They have it in a physical format, but they talk when we are interviewing them. But the most the first opportunity is with the person or the individual who is presenting himself well in terms of his credentials, right? When you go for an interview, your first job, right? You like to put your best forward. So why not in a digital way? Is what we are encouraging all our employees who are applying. And I'm sure the last hiring that we did, we have a criteria in our job description which says you need this, and it always needs a certification, right? But I've seen people shying away from that because they don't have the knowledge. But the world has changed now; it is completely digital. As Ivan said, if a digital marketing guy is not doing a certification, but he has done it, but he doesn't have a digital credential, how will I know that he has it, right? And how will I verify that? So that has changed, and I think so. We have to encourage. In fact, we encourage all our applicants that come into our organization to put as much as digital credentials that they have. And to tell you, LinkedIn or any other social media channels are the first channels where we go and verify that. And to be very frank, they have built their products so well that you have an opportunity to put it. So why not? So use that channel and highlight it, because if I want to hire Roy, the first thing I go into is LinkedIn and see what certification he has, right? Just to give you an example. So that's how every employer is doing today. How to verify if this certification or this person has really done it. These platforms help you to market. So if I am a candidate, I want to attract employer. If I'm an employer, I have to attract candidates. It's both the same. But you have to present yourself by using the right digital channels or the certifications that you have or the credentials that you can build as soon as possible for you to get that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, and now I guess for our educators and institutions in the audience today, I would highly encourage you if you have, let's say, positions that handling, let's say, the registrar or with your deans and the leadership, school leadership. I think it's very important that you're able to present to future employers that your graduates actually have these skills and to present their credentials in a digital manner rather than have to wait for, let's say, 2 weeks or more just to get the paper version of it, right? So I think it's super important to help our educators also. How do we actually present that? And I can actually share a little bit about that a little later. um, Being able to present digital certs easily, even from a coming from a paper environment. Um, Other things I'd like to kind of ask our panel also here is, um, what about for your internal staff, right? I'm just curious. Let's just take some examples within your own companies. Are there HR practices or upskilling, programs that you have, and have you used digital certificates or badging to kind of verify the completion of these, training programs within your own companies? I'm just curious if you actually are using similar systems, not just for external hires but internal career advancement.
Yes, Silicon has been very, very much digitalized in terms of an organization because we are a technology company. If you don't do that, we have to set our own examples, right? So I think
Mm.
so. Our training team has completely gone virtual. It's all virtual, and every upskilling that you do from a technology perspective, it is all virtual. So we have gone and used a lot of channels, training channels like Udemy and other stuff, which has digital credentials now to use and give it to our employees so that they can go and upskill themselves and add it as a upskilling skill. So if a Java guy wants to do AWS, he's done that and he gets a credential immediately after the training. So it's so easy. Earlier it used to have, but then we have to wait for the certificate to come in. The day you
Yes.
complete the training, the next instant you're getting a certificate. That has completely changed. And we have used that practice to go digital across Unicron. Any upskilling that we do internally, each and every employee gets the certificate instantly. And we encourage them to do that. And I can vouch for it. Everybody goes and puts it on LinkedIn the day they get certified. So that's how they are marketing themselves, that they are getting upskill in our organization.
Yeah, that makes sense because let's say if I want to move up in my job or if I want to make a lateral transfer to a different department, you kind of have some sort of skill sets to show for through digital certs. I mean, Ivan, I'm sure you have a lot of people going through AWS certifications all the time. I mean, is
Yeah.
this quite common for you, I believe?
Yes, definitely. So at Amazon Web Services and the whole of Amazon, one of our leadership principles really is to learn and be curious. So we are always encouraged to learn new stuff. We have a lot of internal training from a technical perspective as well as non-technical stuff, right? So I'm actually a chemistry teacher by training. When I joined AWS, I basically just went through a lot of the technical stuff in order to learn as well. And we issue a lot of digital certificates from our AWS training and certification, right? Where you can be a solutions architect and everything. And those exams are not easy to pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very proud of myself. I studied hard and I got those digital certificates. And the moment I passed the exams, I got the certificates. And I'll very proudly display them because that shows my capabilities in being able to help my customers to understand the situations and the challenges that they face. In fact, I think it's one of the most useful certificates I have because I truly solve problems on a day-to-day basis using the knowledge that I acquire through the certificates.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you mentioned that, Ivan, about the problem solving skills. And, these are skills that if you're using it also, Sharosh, in your companies, this is kind of applying it in the real world when you got in the real world. But as we prepare our learners to enter the real world, it should have some sort of similarity in terms of how they train and upskill and acquire these digital certs as well. So I think for our institutions, especially in education, this is the perfect time to do it because if anything, it's shown that despite physical limitations prior, we are actually able to still achieve learning and interact to each other using the technology. Let's take advantage of this. Even internally, when we upskill our teachers or our learners, we can apply similar platforms so that they can actually upskill and issue certs in the similar manner. Um, so I'll go now to the guide questions. I think most of the of the Q&A questions, because we have quite a few that have come in, and I just want to be able to have enough time to cover most of the question and answer portions. Okay, so just keep your questions coming in, dear audience. Maybe I'll just say hi, hello to some of our people in the chat once more. So we have our friends from Santa Rosa, Laguna. We also have some, as far as Batok, Kamsur, also our friends from Indonesia. Yes, hello. After I mentioned the Independence Day, Happy Independence, a lot of people started chatting from there. We have some Toboso, Negros Occidental, and other areas. And we have a few questions in the chat as well. Okay, so here, I'll just take one quick question here. Is the question here from Christelle. She's asking, are digital credentials secure? Or is there an expiration like other credentials? Sarosh, maybe you can take a crack at this one. Are these secure, and is there an expiration to these credentials?
It depends on what, but I don't think so. But it is the most secure digital credential is, or I would say it's the most credential even can add on it. Some certifications have their expiry, but it's up to you how it is. But I don't think so. It is an unsecured platform. In fact, it's a single platform where you can put your multiple credentials, and it is, according to me, is 100% secure, and it is a verified platform, or you can verify it faster. It has a date, it has a number, whatever, wherever you're doing it from. It is the most secure platform that I have seen till date.
Fantastic. Ivan, can you comment? I'm sure you have comments on this. Are digital credentials secure, and can they have expirations?
So I think it comes down to a lot of implementation, right? But generally, digital credentials are more secure than physical ones because really, in terms of authenticity, cryptography from a digital perspective has really made it a lot more difficult for people to have certificates that are not authentic. So that really helps in terms of security. It comes down to the implementation. For those people who are concerned in terms of privacy, for example, right, it can also be implemented in such a way that it is not public, that someone who holds the credential needs to give permission to schools or universities or employers before they can actually access the credential. So in that sense, it is a lot more secure compared to a physical credential, because once you photocopy it or you send it over an email, someone can take that exact copy and send it away. That makes it a lot less secure. So security is relative, but I think digital credentials are more secure than traditional credentials. There's a lot more that you can control with it. On the second question on expiry date, I think it comes down to the issuer of the credential, right? There are some credentials that issuers want to have an expiry date to make sure that the skills are regularly updated. For example, in nursing or in or doctors, I know there are some expiries, like CPR certifications. Usually they expire once every year or once every 2 years, right? But there are some other things that have no expiry. So it comes down to the issuer to decide whether they can and how they want to expire it. That is just a function of the issuer. It is not related to the technology at all.
Absolutely. In fact, Ivan, thanks for sharing that. So here at AcadAsia, when we onboard some of our institutions who use our digital certification platform, and I'll share that a little bit later, yes, you can set the expirations. It'll depend on the issuer. Some of them, let's say if it's a bachelor's degree or diploma, obviously, then that's has no expiration if they've completed the entire 4-year or 2-year course. But let's say if you want continuing education, so you come back. So then to refresh those skills. So sometimes it can be as soon as 6 months or 3 months, depending on what credentials you look for. You can set those, and you can only do that more efficiently with digital certs. And obviously, it's more secure because if it's on the blockchain, one more of idea on security is, if it's a paper cert, if you file it in a cabinet, it can be burned in a fire or washed away in a flood and an earthquake. But here, it's on the blockchain. Even let's say you have a local server that's storing the credential, it still can be physically damaged. But if it's in the cloud, it's much safer. And people who try to tamper with it or try to change the name, they cannot, because then the ledger is copied on multiple servers and they have to all have the same information, right? So many ways to secure, especially now, digital certs. Before I move on to the next question, I want to say hello to a fellow Raghavan, Mr. Raghavan Iyer from Chennai, India. Hello, it's your namesake, Sarosh. I'm sure I probably no relation, but nice to have a similar name as you. Okay, and then let's go to our guide questions again. Our question and answer portion once more. There's one question here. Is there any minimum or maximum number of credentials providers need to enroll with? Okay, so for employers to consider a potential talent. So I guess this is a two-pronged question. The first one is is there a finite number of credentials issuers can issue? And then second is for an employer when they're considering potential talent hires, is there a minimum or maximum credentials that you're looking for?
When you look at specific skills, let me put it in a technological way. So behaviorals, you can have as many as you can, starting from wherever you have. But from a technology perspective, we have some specific technology certificates that we look at. The more you are nearer to what you're doing, as AWS, we look at AWS certified candidates when we look at an application coming in, right? So it depends. It should be near to what you're doing, So if you're an accountant, more of finance. If you're marketing, more of marketing. If you're a sales, so you should be connected with what domain you're into. So that can help you. It doesn't have a limit. You can add as much as you can. In fact, from an employer point of view, the more you have, the better. But then be ready to get more questions from the employer also. That's how it is. But at least we know that you're getting so many credentials with your profile, which gives an uptick on getting an interview.
Absolutely. Ivan, is it the number of certs or it's also, I guess, the quality of the certs? What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I think it more comes with the quality of certifications as well as the reputation of the issuer. If I get a certificate from Harvard X, for example, that people know it is a tough course, and I probably struggled to get my certificate from Harvard X. It's beyond really just the number of credentials. I think it's the impact of the credentials, the reputation of the credentials, and the skills that the credential gives you in order to show to your employers the skills that they are looking for in order for them to hire you, right? When it comes to potential talent, that is the most important thing. So you will find that a lot of, for example, AWS certifications are very well sought after because they are difficult exams to pass. You need to really get a pretty high bar to get that across. And if you have that, people know that, okay, you have the skills to at least be able to pass the exam. So you have a basic amount of knowledge there. That gives them that trust and confidence that you have put in the effort and are likely to be able to be competent in the task that they want you to do. Now, of course, a lot of things you will learn on the job, but it sets a baseline based on the credentials that you have. Sometimes having too many credentials, it shows that you are really very distracted or you have done a lot of things. Sometimes it's better to do several important credentials within a certain vertical. That helps.
That's great advice, Ivan, and I hope our educators also take this to heart. Right, it's also not so much the breadth of credentials you earn. Uh, if you are able to kind of focus on some key strengths and really showcase, so you're good at sales, you're good at technology, you're building product. If you're able to focus on some key competencies, then having a few credentials on that, not necessarily everything, but a few key credentials from reputable issuers and institutions, then that actually helps build up the credibility of your resume much better than if you have like so many certs, right? Moving on to a couple of other questions here. We kind of touched upon these, but I'll just mention them really quickly. Um, are they secure? Are they authentic? We already mentioned it, how to preserve the authenticity. Privacy, you can set the privacy so that you can only, let's say, limit it to who's viewing the cert. You can do that. There's another question here. I'll just briefly touch upon this, and if you gentlemen can have some comments, is it what if you have a weak internet connection? How easy or how difficult is it to actually get these digital certs, especially if they're in areas where connectivity is an issue? Are there any workarounds to help remedy this?
I'm just gonna take a stab at that very quickly. In the situations I've seen, actually, internet connectivity is not a major issue. Because what you really need is just to be able to send a request to a server to verify the certification. And such credentials can be stored on mobile phones in an encrypted and secure manner to be able to verify with an employer. So actually, internet connectivity is a minor problem unless you have zero internet connectivity at all times. That would be an issue because it is digital. But as long as you have intermittent internet connectivity, I don't think that is likely to be an issue as long as the technology providers have done it in the right way to be able to authenticate and secure the certificates. I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I agree here. It very consumes very little bandwidth, even if the speed of your internet is not that fast. It really just is, as Ivan mentioned, you just request, and then it can easily verify already if this cert is actually genuine or not. And if you're able even to send an email version of the digital cert as an attachment, that's also good enough if you cannot do a live, let's say, download or display of the actual cert. And I can show you a quick demo of this a little bit later. One more question from our audience before I ask the speakers to give their final thoughts about this topic. I like this question a lot, and I'll wrap up the Q&A with this one. They're asking, how do I motivate my students to get digital credentials? Okay, I guess the other question here is, how do I also motivate institutions to start issuing digital certs, right? So what kind of motivations, how do we help our institutions and learners actually get digital certs?
I would say that we should start training them on the importance of digital certification, which we are doing currently. So the importance of digital training credentials are very key, and you can encourage them by acknowledging that it is the requirement or need of the hour for all the employers in the market, looking at all the applications, which will encourage them. They might get the first opportunity when they're looking for a job. That's where they all are excited about for their first job. I think so that will excite them to build their digital credentials, which is the key for the current market that we are into.
Absolutely. Ivan, any ideas on how we can encourage? I have a few comments and I want to share with them, but I'll let you go first. How do we
Yeah.
encourage our students, our institutions to start getting digital credentials?
I think for digital credentials, it comes down to the basic principles of motivation, right? Beyond just telling them, go and get a digital credential, let them experience the benefits, right, of getting a digital credential, of earning a digital credential. Implement something in your schools with a simple digital credential system. So that they understand what digital credentials are rather than have an external one, because then you can curate the whole digital credential system, and you are able to get them on board, let them see the benefits of it, let them see how they can see their own growth and chart their own growth on the school's digital credential system, for example, right? That allows us to guide our students through a lifelong learning process. We get them used to learning for the rest of their lives, and so that when they get out of the school, they understand the benefits of digital credentials, micro credentials, and lifelong learning, right? And the convenience of digital credentials, because they haven't started applying for jobs yet. Because once they do, they will realize the pain of going back to their universities or the schools to verify the certificates. Because that's when they will understand the benefits of everything, the whole ecosystem coming together. And that's my take on it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ivan. I mean, I just want to share a little bit, and I see a lot of the comments here. We hope, Ms. Fe Abelia is asking, we hope someday digital certificates can be issued in the school. Absolutely. It's much closer than you think, Ms. Fe. It's very easy now. There are very useful solutions that can allow you to issue digital certs. And I guess another sharing I'd like to provide our audience is look at your own institutions as well and see what you're known for and what you're good at, right? So if you're, let's say, you're known for mechanical engineers, right? You have, let's say, the best mechanical engineers that you graduate from, or let's say you're good in agricultural sciences, or you're good in producing lawyers. That is the first step in terms of then this department or this college should be the one of the first to be initiating issuing digital certifications because you have some brand knowledge and brand exposure already in the marketplace. Employers are already looking for your graduates with your specializations, and they would greatly appreciate you having digital versions of the certificates or diplomas of your graduates, so that employers know that they really graduated from your prestigious institution, that you're good on subject matters that you are excellent at. Okay, so I think another advantage of digital search is if you want to add various curriculum as well, you can partner with other institutions that are good. Let's say you have institutions that are good at digital marketing, or at academia, if you want to upskill your teachers and enhance their effectivity in pedagogy and technology experience. These are institutions you can partner with and have digital certs that you can show others that say, yes, all my teachers are upskilled this way. Yes, all my learners are upskilled and have earned these certificates. So really very useful and very doable. Before I do a quick demo of what we can offer, I'd like to call our panelists on their final thoughts on this matter, on how digital certificates can help showcase your learners' skills to employers. Um, Sharosh, would you like to take a crack at it? Your final thoughts on the value of digital certifications.
What I feel it is the go-to thing that you should have for the next years or ages that we are into, because that's what I feel. I personally feel that digital certificates are the next that are going to be there. Gone are the days that we'll have physical certificates. Like I'll give the current example. There are no more resumes coming on paper. Is everything virtual? So everything is in PDF now. So that is what the next world is going to be, more of digital. Whatever you do, it is your degree, diploma, training, behavioral skills, whatever you do in your career or your journey of your career ahead, digital certification or credentials are going to be the most recommended way of going ahead and would be valued by the employer. Why I'm saying that, in fact, as you said, a lot of institutions already started doing that. They are already to the virtual journey, the digital journey basically, and if that can be done, it is more efficient and effective, is what I would put as my comment on that.
Thank you so much, Ross. It's been a pleasure having you. Ivan, your final thoughts.
I think digital certificates and certifications in general are going to be the way moving forward. So beyond micro credentials and everything, it is a game changer when it comes to the amount of time and manpower saved, and the pain saved in schools, by the employers, by the school administrators. Because as a school administrator, you want your administrators to do, things that are valuable, and you don't want them to be going through a file cabinet just to pull out a certificate just to verify it, right? There are a lot more things that can be done, in order to make it, a lot more accessible and a lot more efficient. And I think all of us as educators, as school administrators, we have to actually imagine and be able to reinvent the future of the schools, the institutions, so that we are able to provide a better value for the students. And in order to do that, digital credentials are the way forward.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Absolutely agree with you as well. And I have some encouraging news for our audience today. I'll show you how you can earn your digital certificate. And in fact, it can allow you to also help your institutions issue certificates as well, because we've made it very easy. I'll share my screen a little bit so that you can see what I mean when we say that issuing digital certs is now quite doable. Okay, let me just select my window here. All right, and here we go. So for you to earn your digital certificate for this session today, you just need to log into acadasia.com. Okay, so you have to sign in. Okay, so if you have an existing account, it's very easy, just sign in. If you are creating an account for the first time, click on the sign up button and make sure you select teacher. Okay, because teacher, you are a teacher account, you're not a student account, and just fill in and log in. Once you have logged in and filled up all the profile information that you need to fill up, you'll be welcomed here. We have several services here. CollabDead is for our social network, so you can chat and join our communities. DesignEd, you can build courses. And Skilled is where you can get the course that accompanies this webinar. Okay, so if I click on Skilled and you search here, you'll see we have a course that accompanies our webinar today, Digital Credentials to help your students showcase their skills. Just sign up and enroll in this course. And once you log in and enroll in the course, it looks like this. Okay, so make sure that you've created your account and then click enroll. And then go through the various topics within the course. It's actually very easy. And answer the exit survey at the end. Once you answer the exit survey at the end and complete the entire course, make sure you click topic complete and then complete the course. And you will be sent via your email address the digital certificate that accompanies this webinar. And I'll demonstrate how that looks like just as a sample. Let's say here we've actually enabled schools to be able to issue certs as well. So here, if you want to verify a credential, for example, here as a sample of a digital cert from AcadAsia, I want to check the certificate. Okay, there is a certificate, let's say with this, for example, a number associated with the cert, and the cert looks something like this. So you will get a cert similar to this for this course once you've completed it. It shows the QR code and the link, the name, and actually the credential that you would have earned. You can also share this on various social networks such as LinkedIn or Facebook, and this is a verifiable certificate. You can even add additional information to promote, let's say, your school's other courses. So let's try to verify the cert. So for example, here I can download the PDF and print it out if I want, or keep it digital. I can share it on my LinkedIn page, or let's say if I want to verify. So I'll try it here. I click verify. Right now, it says here it's still not verified. So for example, I'll put my email address, but this is not my cert. It will show that it is not me. I'll just quickly demo it. And notice it says an X. But if you put in the correct certification, and you can see that it is actually Ms. Zarina's certificate. If I enter the correct email here, then it will verify and show that it is a correct verified cert. So I know that Ms. Zarina actually completed this course, and I can even see all the credentials that Ms. Zarina has actually earned over time, right? So this is something that allows institutions, you don't need sophisticated techies to do it. even your registrar and internet connection, you can already issue digital certs this way. All right. So that ends my short demo. Let me stop sharing my screen now. And again, I'd like to thank Sarosh and Ivan for joining us on this session for digital certificates. Please come over and join us as well on AcadAsia so that we can actually get your digital certifications for this webinar. Join the course, and it's very easy to get your digital cert. And if you want to know more about us, please contact us by email or by messaging us on AcadAsia, and we can help you and help your institution actually earn digital certs and issue digital certs as well. On behalf of Sarosh and Ivan, I am Roy Platon. Thank you so much. We are AcadAsia, empowering educators everywhere. See you, and see you at the next session next week. Bye bye,
Thank you.
everybody. See you next week.